Hello and you're welcome to Agripreneur on Trust TV, where we talk all things related to agribusiness. I am your host, Chamunda Beng, and today on the show we are discussing date processing in Nigeria. But first, let's take a look at the average price of market commodities in the FCT. Cultivated from the date palm tree, the date processing sector is a developing one with enormous growth potential. Popularly known as dabino, is mainly grown in the northern parts of Nigeria, especially in states like Jigawa, Yobe, and Kano. Dates are mostly produced into date syrup, date paste, and dried dates. All right, so what I have here in my hand is a plate of dates. Now, they're commonly known as dabino, which is their, should I call it their Hausa name? Now, this particular fruit comes from the date palm tree and is known for its distinct sweet flavor. And that flavor has allowed people within the food business to use it as a replacement for sugar. Now, this particular date has been processed into different items, different types of food. So you can find it as an ingredient in this particular drink. It's a tiger nut drink. Many of us know it. It's been processed into syrup, powder, granola, as well as biscuits. Actually good. Date processing in Nigeria is a somewhat new market that has been largely untapped due to several factors. However, it does carry a lot of potential.
So we've been in this actually since 2018. However, the company was registered in 2021. We started like trials, trying to get friends and family to try it out. Because when we started, we had never really seen this in this form. So we used that whole period between 2018 and 2021 to like get feedback, and then we saw that there's actually a market, and that was when we say we actually fully launched into the business. It's been a long, tough journey since then, simply because when we started, like I said, in fact, I had never seen date powder in my life when I started it. I just knew that, oh, this thing tastes sweet. I tasted dates for the first time in 2014. I was like, oh, this thing is really sweet. And then with a background of diabetes in both parents, I had been very averse to processed sugar. I would try to stay away from sugar. So I thought to myself, how can I convert this thing, something that somebody can use to drink pap and drink, since it's natural, the body, and then from my research, it was obvious that the body could digest it easier and all of that. So, and that was my mindset. And so fast forward to between then and now, we've made a lot of progress. There's more awareness, so people can actually pass date powder in the supermarket and pick it up. Before then, I had to like really explain. Even up till now, there's some people that are just like, okay, so date powder, what do I do with it? Do I make it into swallow? What is it for? But by and large, we have really crossed that initial barrier. There's more awareness. People know that, oh, this is just an alternative sweetener. And in addition to that, we've been able to create a lot of other products because it's quite versatile. Okay, so a lot of other products, including date syrup. We even have a date biscuit. So the whole idea is basically giving you an alternative that is healthy and is better for you. Also, something that happened over time that people are now more aware of the relationship between what they eat and their health. So there's a lot more awareness. People are now more careful what they eat. And we too were trying to create that awareness, because whether you like it or not, what you eat is affecting you. Whether you choose to believe it or not, it is affecting you in one way or the other. So, and that awareness is being created more and more. Our customer base has grown by over 100% or 200% since between 2018 and now, and we now have consistent buyers. We have some markets reaching out to us now saying, oh, we saw your product. I just shipped to a supermarket in Jos. They saw the products in a supermarket in Abuja, and they were like, oh, we'd like to have them in Jos as well. So yes, that awareness is growing. And so where we want to take it to now is where we can now have date powder or any of the date sweeteners replace sugar in things like your baking, for instance, the kunu, the drinks and all, replace it. If I will have a lady in Lagos who bakes, she has a cake she bakes with dates, so she's ordering our date powder consistently for all her baking. So yes, the awareness is growing, but of course, it's like a drop in the ocean.
Despite the several health benefits that comes with using dates as a cleaner alternative to processed sugar, the high price tag has become a barrier to the date processing market.
Which is that dates are expensive. Anywhere you go in the world, dates are not cheap. So now taking something that's already expensive and spending money to process it into something else, you can imagine. So if you are doing like an apple to apple comparison with sugar, it's like night and day. So maybe you can buy a pack of sugar for like 200 naira. There's no 200 naira dates, or date powder or date syrup. So that's a big challenge. Right now, for us, it's not a mass market product yet. We will get there eventually, but now it's more of middle class, upper class, and health conscious people who are deliberate and are willing to spend whatever it takes to just keep themselves healthy. So in terms of the cost of production, of course, we're in Nigeria. You're providing your own power, you're providing your own water. All the machines you see here, we need to get for ourselves. So the cost of production now, in addition to the cost of the dates itself, is also a problem. It's also a problem. So yes, it's a capital intensive business really. We didn't know that when we started, because I just started with one mudu of dates and with my blender at home. But when you now want to scale, you now need to, in fact, as we are right now, this place is already too small for us. We're looking to actually expand. We need more machines and things like that. Yeah. Which is that we're yet to break even, not talk of making profit. However, we see a future, even beyond them, because we're looking to export. We see that, in fact, we were at a trade show in New York in June, and just like, if I was as if it was 2018 and we were starting, because they were like, this part, what's that? So we had to keep explaining. But one guy got it, we were like, you guys are in the future. You guys are already in the future, because, of course, everybody's trying to stay away from sugar because of all the various health challenges that it comes with. So, to answer your question, we know that we eventually get there, but it will take some time.
Due to the state of the Nigerian economy, as well as unfavorable policies, businesses in the country are struggling to stay above water.
We basically bootstrapped. So one thing we've not done is to, get huge loans from the bank, because those have a way of sucking you in and literally draining you. So we have bootstrapped from the onset, basically plowing back everything that comes in back into the business with our own personal savings, and basically whatever comes in, we just turn it over. That's what we have been doing. And of course, friends and family, people who see what I'm not like, this should be supported from time to time. We have that. So that's basically how we've done it, and being very prudent. Let me just use that word. Very prudent. Everything that comes out, we're putting back in. Looking forward to when we can really grow. We're looking out for some grants. Like I said, loan is something that we're really, really wary of. But if we do get there, maybe we will. We're also thinking about equity, getting people to invest is something that we're also open to. But right now, basically bootstrapping and being prudent. Beyond grants, we've gotten support with respect to capacity building a whole lot from various organizations, from the USAID, for instance, FAO, like I said, And I must say, even though it's not physical cash, the knowledge has been very useful in helping us run a sustainable business. Because sometimes it's not just money you need. Sometimes even when you have the money, you don't know what to do with the money. So we are grateful for that kind of opportunity to build capacity, to know what to do, when to do it, what to refrain from doing, the structures to put in place to make sure that the business remains sustainable.
According to Ayodele Bamishayi, the processing methods are often intensive. She further stated that Nigeria is missing out on a huge economic opportunity.
It's quite intense. So our first step is to wash the dates. So as they come in, we wash to make sure there's no debris, no sand, no dust. And then after the washing, you now need to do a bit of drying before you pit. Pitting basically means removing the seed. And then after that, you dehydrate to a point where you can now grind and package. Now, what I've just said in one sentence is a lot of work, but that's basically in a nutshell. So, because we use it for various things, at each point we take out what we use for the granola, for instance, because we need larger bits. The fine powder we take out for the date powder itself. The larger, softer ones we take out for date syrup. So there's a lot of sorting going on. What we learned when we started the business was the fact that dates actually have potential to grow in large quantities in Nigeria. There's a whole date belt spanning from Jigawa all the way to a bit of Borno State, down to Yobe, all that whole area. There's a whole date belt where dates can grow. Unfortunately, like most things in Nigeria, there hasn't been any government support for that initiative, because so that's why you can't find an association, you can't find any like large farmers. No. So it can actually grow. So we actually found that Nigeria is the only country in the world that has the potential to harvest dates twice a year. Even Saudi is once a year. All those, Arab countries where they farm dates a lot, is one harvest a year. But we have that potential because of the kind of climate that we have. But we're not harnessing that potential. In addition to that, dates actually have the potential to be a huge economic booster for the country. What does that mean? That whole date belt, all this, we're talking about insecurity, kidnapping. Those are some of the things that could be used to empower and engage the youth in those areas. And the thing with this is that once you plant a tree, for the next 100 years, that tree is fruiting. So even if you plant one now, you are securing an entire generation with economic activity that they can, work on. And then there's a lot of talk about non-oil export. It's something we can also venture into. When we talk about export in Nigeria, what are the major culprits? Cashew, hibiscus, shea butter, and ginger. Those are the things that we're focused on. But this is like a virgin area that we can also tap into. Another side to it is the fact that the dates that we use for our processing are the hard dates. The mushy, soft ones that we typically see in the Middle East can't really do what we do. You need to have them in like a steady state for them to be preserved, and so you can convert them into various things.
Nigeria is the only nation in the world where date palms may be harvested twice a year. For the rest of the world, it only has one fruiting season, even in its native regions of North Africa and the Middle East. Despite this advantage, the nation produces less than 20% of its own food, with the remaining 80% coming from imports. We'll go on a short break, and when we get back, we will be getting into the processing methods. You're welcome back to Agripreneur on Trust TV. Now, when it comes to processing dates, the entire fruit can be useful, including the seeds.
In order to process dates into its various products, the dates must go through a week-long process involving several steps.
Right now, we're in a part of the pitting stage where we're basically making sure that there's no seeds as much as possible. This process is totally manual right now. After the machine breaks, I need another human eye to make sure that there are no seeds, because seeds getting into the powder doesn't give you a very good experience. In some of these drums, dates are very hygroscopic, so that they absorb water from the moisture from the atmosphere. So they need to be kept permanently in tightly sealed containers, elevated from the floor. So right now, just because we're in a processing stage, that's why they're here, so that once they're done, we seal it back up before we're ready to pulverize them and turn them to powder. The seeds can be used for a number of things. In fact, there's a country now where someone has tried to turn it into fuel for powering cars, powering machines. So for now, we want to use it to make date seed oil, and we're looking to get the oil extractor that will do that for us. So from here, we go to the grinding room where we'll now grind to powder. Now, because we use it for several things, like let me just show us this, like our date granola and our date biscuit, we need it in various forms. So we first of all split it, break it into smaller bits, and take out some of the bits for the granola, which has more of the bits, and some for the biscuits. Our very first step in our processing is to wash the dates. So once we wash them, we can now do a sorting into the very soft ones and the drier ones before we move to the stage of breaking it and then removing the seeds. So as much as possible, as you can see, we wear gloves. All our staff, we always have our hair covered. We have face masks to work with, and of course, part of it is use of stainless steel materials that are less likely to hold on to dirt and germs, and everything is constantly being washed because we realize the importance of cleanliness and hygiene in what we're doing. This has various species. The species that we use mostly is called the deglet nor species. It's usually drier. Now we prefer that dry one because it enables us to be able to get as much powder as possible. The softer ones we use for the syrup after we take out the seed. So as part of the sorting, we're also separating those that are already a little bit soft from those that are very dry. Those are all part of the process that we need to go through, because if you grind soft one along with the dry one, you're increasing moisture content, which will make your powder not have a good enough shelf life, not have a long shelf life. So that's part of the sorting process, making sure soft ones do not get in, making sure seeds do not get in, making sure there's no debris. So that's basically how it works.
A combination of limitations in infrastructure, poor market access, quality control, and insufficient amounts of produce continues to affect the date processing market. The benefits of Nigeria engaging in date farming is beyond just economic.
So it has a lot of potential. Unfortunately, a lot of that potential has not yet been tapped. But what we can do as a country with date farming is really endless. We see the date farm is just like crude oil. There's so many products, as you've seen, so many product possibilities just from the date palm. From even the palm frond, the bark, the seed, the mesocarp. There's so many things you can do with it. So imagine that one is able to actually farm the dates in large, significant quantities so that you can be assured of harvest and you can actually have this product ready to be sold to those who will utilize it or process it in one way, form, manner, or the other. So that the potential is there. One of the things that we talk about are the five fingers possibilities for date farming and what it can do for us as a nation, even beyond what it's doing for the person farming it, And we say, one, the first, it can impact on desertification. Desertification is one of the most biggest issues facing us in the northern part of the country, whereby the desert is encroaching on a daily basis. We're losing so much land to desertification. The farming of dates can actually help in preventing the inflow of the desert. That's one. Two, drought. There are many areas in the country which the drought has actually eaten up and has taken over. Many villagers have had to move from where they are. Why? Because of drought. Now, farming dates can help us buy back or secure those areas and reintegrate the villagers into the places where they stay. That's two. Climate change. Now, some studies that have been done, there's a university in one of the universities in the Middle East that did a study, and they said so that if you farm 1 hectare of dates, you're actually able to sequester over 15 tons of carbon in a year. What that basically means is that you're actually getting a lot of the carbon emission back, into the soil with 1 hectare of dates that are actively growing and fruiting and producing. That's 3. 4, with the dates, you actually are able to create jobs. The entire value chain from production to consumption, cultivation, to the table. There's so many activities therein that will actually create a sound means of livelihood for those who are involved in every step of the value chain. That's 4. Then 5, actually securing wealth for coming generations. One of the things, and there's a narrative there which is very interesting. You probably have heard of how Nigeria was one of the leading producers of oil palm in the 40s and so on and so forth. But today, we're number 5 in that value chain. One of the things that we're looking at, if we are able to grow date palms on a massive scale, we actually are able to secure the future and ensure that future generations are able to have a means of wealth, because the date palms will give them that. Today, Egypt is the biggest producer of date palms in the world. Some of the other North African countries are actually some of the biggest exporters. Tunisia, and then in the Middle East, United Arab Emirates, they produce and they export and they make quite a lot of money from the export of the dates.
Speaking from a trade perspective, trade expert Collins Nwosu says the date trade market in Nigeria is practically non-existent, and the atmosphere will make it tough for those who plan to engage or are engaged in the sector.
There are quite a number of people who are beginning to get into dates locally, but globally, it's a huge market. I do not have the recent numbers, but I probably will share that data. But the thing is, in Nigeria, we have several companies that have started latching onto the health aspect of date selling, right? So dates traditionally is tied to ceremonies. So a lot of our northern ceremonies, during the Salah festivals and all, but there's a growing consciousness in terms of health. And those health buffs are now using it as alternatives to sugar, alternatives to honey, and even coffee. So with the wide application that dates has, it's no wonder to say that it has a huge appeal. Yet we do not have enough people getting into it. So it's not scratched the surface and the potential of latching onto the dates market. With any cash crop, there's a level of investment that is required. So you're not just talking the land size, you're talking about investment in terms of time. So you're going to put a seed in the ground today, and depending on what kind of seed you put in the ground, you don't expect to get anything for another 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, in some instances 15 years. So who has that patience to wait? You also need to check the taste buds of the current economy. A lot of people are running on survival mode. So not many are thinking, okay, what will I do in the next 10 years, 15 years? So that's the kind of thinking that needs to shift. So for us to engage more cash crops, dates being part of it, then there's need to do a shift in a bit of change, and there's going to be need for support. For instance, I know under the Agri program right now that is being run by the World Bank and the federal government, a lot of palm is going to be planted, right? So there's an environmental slant to that, also there's an economic slant. So we may need to have some of these programs look at other cash crops, dates inclusive. Of course, don't forget that right now we do a lot of imports. We import a lot of dates for our use, and even the processors have to rely on these imports.
Nigerians gravitating towards dates and their products as a sugar replacement understand the dangers of sugar consumption. Senior dietitian Naimat Abdulwahab gives a clear breakdown of the health benefits of dates and the implications of sugar to the health.
It's a very good choice moving from simple sugar to date, because date has been related. Date has plenty nutrients, that is loaded with nutrients such as potassium. It's a good source of iron, okay? And also, the fiber content in date has been linked to, if not consumed properly, if not consumed too much, it can help in controlling blood sugar level. So, by the time they switch to the use of dates, I think it is far, far better, and they'll get more benefit, and also the sweet text of the date can serve the purpose of simple sugar, thereby not exposing them to the complications of taking simple sugar. The truth is that when the sugar enters the bloodstream, it stays inside the blood. So there is an organ in the human body called the pancreas, which secretes the insulin, and the work of this insulin is to carry glucose around the body. So by the time a lot of sugar are being consumed that deposited inside the bloodstream, it is expected for the pancreas to secrete enough of this hormone called insulin in order for the sugar to be transported throughout the body. But the insulin sometimes might not be secreted enough to carry the sugar around the body. Or if the insulin, sometimes the insulin will be secreted enough, but the body will not recognize the insulin being secreted, thereby leading to accumulation of the sugar in the blood. So, and too much accumulation of this sugar in the blood leads to diabetes, and if the sugar gets to the eyes, it leads to glaucoma. If care is not taken, can make someone go blind.
Nigerian date processing sector has great potential for diversification and economic growth, particularly in the agriculture industry. It can also significantly boost the nation's economy with the correct funding and assistance. It can also boost the largely ignored local economies in rural areas by creating job opportunities. And due to global demand, it also has export potential. That's about all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining Agripreneur today. Please do follow us on our social media platforms at Trust TV News. My name is Chamun Dabeng. Please do stay safe.